here we go into the supply chain intelligence framework. These are the pillars you're going to build your system on when you start to identify those KPIs. It starts with an industry framework, unique value proposition, managerial focus, and internal processes. When it comes to an industry framework, Howard, I want to bring you in with your experience in industry where you're at. What's some of the framework? How do you best understand your industry when it comes to the aerospace industry?
Well, for us, it's unique, right? So we're in aerospace manufacturing, like I said, being unique in that area. The thing we really care about for us in aerospace and at our company is quality and high performance for our different airframes. So that's one of our major focuses, is making sure that with the products that we make, that especially going aircraft that have lives on, hundreds of lives on it, is working properly and it's doing what it says, to what we made it to do and what we intended it to do.
Very good. Yeah, you got to know how your industry works so that when you get information, you know what it actually means. Now, when it comes to a value proposition, your value proposition in the marketplace is going to drive your decisions on which suppliers you're going to use and what, things you're going to exchange for other things like quality versus cost. So when it comes to your value proposition in the market, Howard, what does it look like for your company?
So going back to that again, right, with being in aerospace, being custom designed. So anything that moves on an aircraft, anything that makes it change directions, which is called motion flow or motion control, that's what Moog specializes in. So it's high quality and high performance. And this goes on a multitude of aircraft. And that's one of our major value propositions, because these are flight critical components, meaning if it fails, an aircraft could fall from the sky or it could crash and hundreds of lives could be lost. So for us, like I said before, our product needs to perform to the specifications it was designed for. And that's what's unique value that we provide at Moog.
And you have like a zero failure rate, right?
Yeah,
Meaning you can't fail. If a plane falls out of the sky, people get hurt, not only in the sky, but on the bottom, wherever that thing lands. So value proposition, high quality, getting it right every single time drives your decision to use one supplier over another. High quality must be there. And that's where it comes to our managerial focus. What your managers tell you to focus on is what's going to drive our decisions as well. If we're trying to reduce cost, we're going to make decisions to reduce cost. A lot of us saw that during the pandemic, where we drove prices down so far that suppliers started dropping out when they couldn't make their margins. They were barely making it in the first place. And now they were having to cut costs and people were dropping out. So they started, losing. So managerial focus. What's the managerial focus that you guys have, Howard?
For us, it's quality and capability, and also reliability and consistency, right? We're not focused on driving down costs as much. It's nice to have, but at the end of the day, for our line of work, it needs to make sure that we have good quality, that it's capable of doing what our product is designed for, that we can count on it to do what it's designed to do, and it's consistent.
And so that's driving your decision on which suppliers you're willing to pay a little bit more to meet those other criteria, right?
Exactly.
So cost is not necessarily the most important piece of this part. And just here's an example of a slide that we found, that when CEOs are looking at China, what's going on with China, what's driving their decisions right now is, part of it's looking deeper into their supply chain. Those second, third, fourth, fifth tier suppliers down the road may have a Chinese connection. And so they have to be aware of that. Is it a bottleneck item, something that's not very expensive, but can be critical in actually producing the end result that they're looking for? So these are just some of the things you want to think about. Your CEO's direction, your annual report as a supply chain professional, you need to be aware of what your executives are driving their decisions so you can support those decisions within your supply chain. And that comes down to our internal processes. Howard kind of alluded to that, how long it takes to make a decision when he talks about reducing from procurement request to actually fulfilling that. So what does that look like for you guys, Howard?
Well, so at our site, it's a pretty big site, 700 people at one site, a lot going on at our site in Torrance. But for us, there's multiple levels of decisions, and that's really important for us to consider when it comes to for how long a decision takes, right? So for us, we have like engineering, quality, and all these different internal stakeholders are affected by something. They have to also sign off on it. So each change, so like supply chain, operations, engineering, and quality, each person has to take their time to study what's going on and make the decision. So this can add up, and actually very long lead times for making decisions.
I think time time getting relatively faster than your competition. By having a process, you can do it faster. You know what steps you have to take, and you can exercise that process from a regular day-to-day basis to an actual supply chain crisis on speeding up that process. What are the actual critical people that have to make a decision in that process? How long do you think it takes to make a decision, Howard, in your company?
Oh, days.
Day-
Days or even
Days,
weeks,
days or
depending on
weeks.
the.
That's good. It's not better
Yeah,
than months or years compared to
that's true.
other people who are out there. Months. I've been involved with companies that are like, oh, we have to think about that. We have to wait till our
Mhm.
annual budget, then we'll review that. It's like, well, but the market's moving right now. It's like, well, that's just not how we operate. It's like, okay, that's fine. So action time. Think about building your structure. Consider your supply chain system. What pillars of the supply chain structure do you see inside your organization? What things do you need to add? Do you have good internal processes? Do you understand the managerial focus? Do you understand the value proposition that your company brings to the marketplace? What's a distraction? What are some things that you're paying attention to that just really don't matter? And what changes are you going to make in the next 3 days? And